are extremely pleased today to have as our special guest Karl Rehn. Karl is an internationally recognized weapons expert with over 34 years as a student, competitor, and instructor. His training also includes tactics, combatives, and martial arts. His full bio is on his website at krtraining.com. Please join me now in welcoming Karl. I'm Mary Starr with the Wake to Truth podcast. Today, we are thrilled to have as our very special guest, Karl Rehn. He and another gentleman co-authored a book by the name of Strategies and Standards for Defensive Handgun Training. His material is quite in-depth and frankly, probably over the head of many people, myself included. Today, we're going to do a very basic discussion of self-awareness and safety. I feel very compelled to bring this information to my audience because in today's America, it's not like it was a few years back. Thanks to open border policies that have caused unprecedented, we'll call them issues. It's a new America. It's not what it used to be. It is not Mayberry RFD. And I want to cover some very basic things that will help our audience be safer and be more prepared. And Karl has been gracious enough to come on today, and we're going to talk about that. Karl, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
It is my pleasure. So I want to start with, I like definitions, okay? That's just like a foundation. I want to start with just a definition, a discussion of what you consider a self-defense situation. What are some of the common threads in that?
Well, I mean, anytime you need to defend yourself, it starts out with avoiding, not being selected as a victim, then avoiding the situation if someone does select you as a victim, and then worst case, using force or deadly force if needed to stop the attack. Most situations can be dealt with by deterrence. They can be dealt with by avoidance, good locks, good doors, alarm systems, cameras, and most importantly, when you're in public, paying attention to what's going on around you.
Amen. I'm going to share a quick story I personally had happen to me within the last few months. So I come out of a convenience store, I'm parked at a gas pump, and immediately when I walk out of the store, I just had this sense of I did not feel safe. I'm going to say it was just an unction of the Holy Spirit. And I look around, do a complete 180 left to right. I didn't see anything that looked out of place. So I went on to my car. But the minute I got in my car, I felt this other compelling, voice inside me going, lock the door now. So rather than, starting my car, putting it in driving and letting it lock itself, I went ahead and hit my door lock. I turned around just long enough to put my keys and my cell phone in my purse. I turned back around and there's a guy at my window knocking on my window, and he's basically asking for money, saying he's hungry. And I'm just going to say he didn't look like he'd missed too many meals. And I immediately just started the car and slowly drove away. But I know for a fact, and I've talked to several gentlemen that were in law enforcement, they said if you had not locked your door and been, if you had not followed that inner sense, he would have opened that door and grabbed you and jerked you out of there, and it would not have ended well. That's the kind of thing that I want people to think about and be aware of, because if it can happen to me where I live, it can happen anywhere. And I'd like you to speak to that, if you would, please.
Well, I think of being an adult and being well adjusted to the world is understanding that ultimately you're on your own, that this expectation that you can outsource your personal defense to a family member, or that you can call and someone will show up and protect you, that's really never been the case for the entirety of American history. And if you're in a rural area, we have 3 deputies on duty at any given time in the county that I'm in. And if they're all on the opposite side of the county, it's 30 minutes. If you're in Austin, where they have half the number of police that they should have, thanks to city council policies and budgeting and voting, that again, they may want to come. Those people in those jobs would love to be there for you, but logistics and reality, they're probably not going to get there in time. That you have to solve the problem 99% of the time. Whatever you do is the solution to the problem. And what they do when they show up is usually involved with investigation, documentation, go find the person that attacked you if that person is still around, that sort of thing, prosecution, jail time, that sort of thing. But in terms of the police being right there available to you, or in many cases that happens to people, they get dependent on the one family member that always carries a gun and has a lot of training. They're like, well, if something happens, you're going to save me, right? And it's like, well, okay, what if I'm the first one that gets shot in the head, right? What if I'm the one that's hit on the back of the head with the tire iron, and now I'm on the ground and you're on your own? Again, this whole idea that it's somebody else's job, I think we have to get over that we have to be mentally prepared for it, and we have to have a parking space in our brain for those situations where when something happens, we're not flat footed going, oh my gosh, what should I do? You need some pre programmed responses. That doesn't mean every response is draw my gun and shoot, but you need to have correct responses for a variety of situations, and they need to be kind of ready to go when you need them. And
Right.
so, for your situation, you may not have known it, but you had a pre-programmed response that said somewhere in your brain you thought about this once or twice, and you said, if this happens, I'm going to get in the car and lock the door and deal with it the way you did, and that worked. Had you frozen, had you sat there thinking about what am I going to do if, well, their clock is running too, and every minute you're not doing something is a time that they get to keep doing what they were doing. And that honestly is the hardest thing for most people, is to make that mental readjustment to actually having to think about something bad every time you walk out the door. You should be thinking, well, some crazy driver may run into me, or some crazy person I may have to deal with. And you'll say, well, it's never going to happen to me because I'm this, I'm that, I live here, I live there. And as you pointed out, you can live in a very quiet, rural, low crime area, but if there's only one, kidnapping, if there's only one murder that year in that county, but it's happening to you, then all of a sudden the statistics don't matter,
They
right?
do not.
It's
They
you were
do
either
not.
ready or you weren't. And that's probably the hardest hill for people to climb to get started. Once you accept that, then all the other decisions about equipment and training and everything else become very simple, right? You work through the problems. You go, what if somebody grabs me? Well, I probably need some unarmed skills. You know, what if a stranger walks up to me and is asking for money and they're standing too close and they won't back up? Well, pepper spray works pretty good, right? What if I'm at church or at the Walmart and there's an active shooter? Well, it'd be handy to have a firearm at that point, and it would be handy to have the skill to use it. And so, you just kind of work down the situations. Well, if I have a flat tire, I need a way to change a tire. If I phone goes dead, I need a way to recharge it. It's any of these emergencies, you just need a plan.
So I'm going to go out on a limb just a little bit and say, in my observation from just watching people where I go, parking lots, stores, all of this, if I had to say the number one thing people need to change about their behavior and what they're doing is put your cell phone away. Do not be
Amen.
walking. Okay, thank you. So I'm on the right path.
You are
I mean,
absolutely
I
earbuds, not listening to what's going on around you, focusing on what's on the screen in front of you. Do that when you're at a safe place where you can take your attention away from the world. The worst time to do it is when you're standing between the gas pump and your vehicle pumping gas. Oh, I'll just check my messages. Oh, look, there's a new video on TikTok. I'll just scroll through whatever. That is not the time to be looking away. That when you're on your feet, let me give you a friend of mine who's a very, very famous firearms trainer, Tom Givens, Givens, with the Rangemaster Company. They've been teaching people for 50 years. Tom has had 73 involved in shootings, in real shootings and situations where they had to defend themselves. Uh, the most common factor in those, in public, not in a vehicle, not at home, with their feet on the ground, not they're what he calls transitional spaces from the car to the driveway. You're moving around, you're at the gas station, you're in public somewhere, typically in a parking lot, more than anything, a parking lot in and around your vehicle, which again makes they then when I tell people a gun in the car is as useless as a gun at home in a gun safe. That pepper spray on the dash of your car or in the on the glove, not the glove, on the visor. Pepper spray belongs in your pocket, right? Your equipment belongs with you because the idea that you're going to be able to tell the criminal, hey, I just need to run back to my car and grab that pepper spray or that
Yep.
pistol that I've got unloaded in the glove box, buried under 62 other items. They're not going to wait for that.
No.
They're not going to wait for you. It's convenient to not carry. It's convenient to think, well, I'll just have all that stuff in the car and I can get to it. But it's not convenient when you actually need it to have it in those inconvenient places.
Right. Well, that is one behavior that I look back on all the years that I did exactly the, okay, I'm going to check text messages while I'm pumping gas. That was one of the, biggest changes I had to make. But when I became aware of you're very vulnerable when you do something like that. It was an easy transition to go, I'm not doing that. That is not smart. I am not taking the chance. So now I'm standing there pumping gas with my back, to the car, to the pump or whatever, looking around, making sure nobody, weird is coming up to do something or ask me something.
I do a
So,
walk around, grab the windshield cleaner, the little brush, little squeegee, and I
mm-hmm,
walk around the car and I check the tires to make sure the tires look okay. And I
mm-hmm,
use that as an excuse to not get trapped between the gas pump. There's no reason that you have to stand between the gas pump and your car door. That's the
good,
least
right,
safe place you can be. Walk around your car, use the windshield. You know, if someone bothering you and you have that windshield squeegee in your hand, you've just extended your reach by another foot to 18 inches,
mm-hmm,
right? That you can
yeah,
use that to instance, even if it doesn't work, it doesn't have juice on it. If they have one, you can still have it in your hand, and you can act like you're walking around looking for the bucket to dunk it in, right? But you can look around at other people and see what's going on, and that's
exactly.
very useful to do.
What are some other things like that that you would recommend? Maybe not at the gas pump, but maybe at a grocery store or drugstore, something like that. What are some other suggestions?
Well, if you just kind of think like a cop or think like a bad guy, right? If you're a bad guy, watch other people and look at who you would victimize, right? Look at the person that's walking around with their head in their phone while they're walking around the grocery store, right? If you're the cop, look around for the person that looks like they're going to grab stuff and run. Grocery stores are not that dangerous. Grocery store parking lots, right? Look around for one of the things you told me when you shared that story. One of your pre-attack indicators was that you saw the gentleman that came to your car standing by another car, standing outside the passenger window, talking to them through the window. Well, that's a huge indicator, right? That's not normal behavior.
Right.
That's handler behavior. And so that's where you would immediately get your pepper spray into your hand that doesn't have your car keys, right? This is a POM pepper spray, POM. You can buy them online. Don't buy, let me just say this as a disclaimer, and I apologize to all of my friends that work in retail. However, serious gear does not come from Walmart. Good holsters don't come from gun shops and gun shows. That quality products for self defense generally come from online vendors, often vendors that market themselves to law enforcement or to serious shooters. And so, buying the pepper spray in the blister pack at Lowe's, probably not the ideal pepper spray to get. And so there's a lot of junk products out there or low grade products out there that are marketed to appeal to the unserious self defender, the casual. Well, I should have one of those. And they're better than nothing. But if you'll just spend the same money on a good product, then, cry once, buy once, or buy once, cry once, however that goes. But the bottom line is generally, if you need a holster for your pistol, you should talk to someone that trains people to draw from a holster and not choose the thing that's marketed on Facebook the most often or what your local gun shop has for sale for $20. That unfortunately, there's a lot more people willing to buy the junk products than there are to buy good products, and that's why retail stores don't carry good products. Is because the vast majority of people aren't serious and they're happy to buy low quality, poorly suited products for the task that they're doing. And when you're in retail, you have to sell what people will buy, not what they should buy, but what they want.
Good point. That is really good. Another thing that you mentioned in your book, you talked about evasive actions. Uh, Describe what that looks like to an average person like me or one of my audience members.
Well, here's a classic one. When you went outside on that in that gas station,
Mhm,
if you had seen that guy and you were closer to the main entrance of the gas station than your vehicle,
mhm.
go back in the gas station. There is no law that says you have to defend your vehicle. You don't have to go to your vehicle. There's no reason you can't go back inside and say, hey, there's a sketchy guy out there in the parking lot. Has he been there a while? Or just watch and wait till he's far enough away from your vehicle that then you can make an approach out, right? People have this idea that they have to, quote unquote, stand their ground around their vehicle, and usually it's because they have their gun in their vehicle instead of wearing it. And they're like, well, I can't let them get my vehicle because my gun's in there. Well, that's another reason not to leave your gun in your vehicle, right? Not to leave your pepper spray. Don't leave your laptop or your $50,000 1957 Fender guitar or whatever it is that you have, right? Um, you need to think about, what am I carrying in my vehicle? Here's a really bonus tip: buy a $20 Apple AirTag and stick it in your car. If your car gets stolen, then you can use your phone and the AirTag feature to help the police locate your vehicle.
That's a great point. Really
It's
good.
like $20 low jack, right? For the Android people, I think the product is called Tile. I don't do a lot of Android stuff, but there is some kind of similar product. But it's a tracker, and it can be used to help find your vehicle. And so you want to have a plan. You want to have a response, right?
Right.
And so again, same thing. You're walking down the sidewalk in an urban area, and there's a bunch of homeless people laying in open alcoves in front of stores. Well, cross the street, right?
Mhm.
If there's a group of youths walking towards you and they make you uncomfortable, well, cross the street or go into a store. You weren't going to buy anything from that store, but go into that store anyway. Don't be afraid to change your plan, to move away or make distance or not be noticed by the people that you think are a potential threat to you. Don't feel like, well, I have to keep moving forward, or people are going to think I'm this or I'm that, or I shouldn't be scared of that. No, maybe you should be scared of that, right? My again, Tom with the 73 students, he has a line. He says, "You know what happens to paranoid people? Nothing. Nothing happens to paranoid people, right?"
Love, I love that. That's
And
it's
so
it's so simple and so common sense, but it's that's a very impactful statement.
it's you don't have to be terrified all the time, but
Mhm.
you should also be conscious: how old am I? How strong am I? How much muscle do I have? Am I wearing shoes I can run in? Am I wearing high heels? Am I wearing Crocs? Right? And,
Big
and people
difference.
do dumb things. They go to places where they should wear sensible shoes that they can do things with. And, guys are wearing Crocs or some kind of weird shoe that as soon as they start to run is going to fall off their feet. Particularly when they fly airplanes. People go to airports, and if you actually had a plane accident, then you might have to evacuate the plane, and you don't want to be doing that in Crocs or sandals. And so it's just simple things. You plan ahead and be more of an adult and less of a, this is never going to happen to me, so I don't need to worry about it.
It's all in thinking ahead and thinking about the what if. What if this happens? What am I going to do? And just being prepared. Give it some thought. Um,
Yeah,
these are
let
all
me a program that I'm a big fan of, and the product is called Image Based Decisional Drills. And it's cards. You can purchase the kit. You can look it up online, and basically it's like a card game, right? And you flip over the card, and then you have 3 seconds to make a good first decision. It's a way to train ourselves to make a good first decision. And they give you the options, right? It's like, get on the phone, use the pepper spray, turn on my flashlight, use a tourniquet, run, draw my gun, a wide variety of emergency responses. But the goal is, it's a picture, and all you know about the picture is what you see. So you can't ask for a bunch of extra information. It's like, this is what I see. What are you going to do about it? 3 seconds, go. and that building that ability to make that decision more valuable than all the other skills that you're going to put together. Because if you stand there for 3 seconds and do nothing, well, then the situation just got worse.
Right. Say the name of that product again, please.
Image based decisional drills. It's put together by a husband wife training couple. They teach unarmed and armed self defense. It's the Complete Combatant out of Georgia, Brian and Shelley Hill. And Shelley's written for the NRA magazine. Brian is a MMA competitor, martial arts guy who's also a top masterclass level shooter and just all around super solid instructor. If you have people in the Georgia area, I would definitely seek them out. They don't travel that much anymore, but the image based stuff is really good.
That'd be easily available online, and it sounds perfect for what I could benefit from as well as my audience.
Yeah, you spend 5 minutes and go through the cards, learn how to make a decision. You can buy all these different card decks. I've got a stack of cards from them that's about this tall that you can buy all the different card decks, and that gives you practice. What do I do about this? What do I do about that?
Yep, that's that's I think a very good basic starting point before you even consider if do I want to even think about purchasing a weapon, things like
Yeah,
that.
in 34 years of teaching, we've had a handful, less than five, students actually need to fire a gun in self defense, often presenting the gun, showing the bad guy that you have a gun and you have it with you. That may be sufficient. However, there is a trade off, and if you pull your gun on the wrong person, it's a second-degree felony. And felonies are really bad for jobs and employment and everything else in your life. You don't want that. That's why I'm a big fan of pepper spray, right? If you're not comfortable carrying a little tiny pepper spray in your pocket, you are not going to be comfortable carrying a gun. If you pepper spray the wrong person, it's a misdemeanor. If you pull your gun on the wrong person, it's a felony. And most interactions you're going to have with people are going to involve misdemeanor level situations. Short of an active shooter or someone like a sexual assault where someone's trying to grab you and toss you in the back of the van, right? That becomes much more serious. We did have one student that you were talking about the phone. She was sitting in her driveway with her car door unlocked, looking at a video on her phone that a friend had sent her. And rather than go in the house to watch the video, she's like, "Well, I'm parked in my driveway. What could possibly go wrong?" And as she described it, someone, used the transporter and magically appeared by her car door, opened the door, tried to drag her out of it. She very quickly switched modes from "I can't believe this is happening to me" to "This is not going to happen to me." Made an excellent context shift. She had a pepper spray within reach. She grabbed that. She punched, she fought, she scratched, she screamed. She sprayed with the pepper spray. They fought over the pepper spray. Eventually, he realized he was not going to get her out of the vehicle, and he went running off. And she was not an armed person at this time. She contacted me and she's like, "Well, I failed." I said, "No, you didn't. You stopped the attack. You failed to notice the attack, and so you had to do other stuff." Right? She's like, do I need a gun? I'm like, well, if you had a gun, it would have been too late for you to do anything about it, right? That pepper spray was more useful in a close range, grabby, clutching, hands-on kind of situation. Um, she had also had some martial arts training and was not shy about punching, hitting people, and so she was comfortable with that, and all of that paid off, right? That everybody wants to go to the gun because the gun is technology, and they're like, "I'll just do the minimum. I'll go take the state carry permit, and I'll buy a gun, and I'll shoot it twice. I'll shoot 50 rounds out of it, and I can check the box. Good, I'm good to go for the rest of my life." That's not really how the gun stuff works. You have to practice more frequently, and you need to have it with you, and you need to carry it with you, and that all that stuff is more than a lot of people are willing to do. The good news is there's lots of good products available now. There's a product called the Enigma from a company called Philster, Phlster, and it is the magic solution for anyone that doesn't wear pants with a belt or belt loops, which increasingly now, not just ladies, I get a lot of work from home people. I had a student, male student, show up for class recently wearing sweatpants, and I get about one of those a month now. that he said, I haven't worn pants with a belt or belt loops in the past 3 years because I work from home and I wear flip flops and sweatpants all day long. Like, okay, well, the solution for you and for anyone like that is the Filster Enigma. It's not the cheapest product. You're not going to find it in a retail store. You have to buy it specific to your gun model, and it does take an adjustment, but it's an underbelt that you wear underneath your clothes. And if you look at their website, they'll show pictures of ladies wearing gym clothes. They show guys doing kettlebell exercises and squatting and doing yard work wearing the Enigma. They have a lady wearing a medical outfit, right? Another one wearing a dress. It's, as you can see, a way to carry the gun with you. But I would say start with pepper spray, right? Start with the commitment to every time you walk out the door, every time you get out of the car, have a pepper spray in your pocket where you could get it out and spray someone with it. If you had 3 seconds and you told you need to get it in your hand and spray, that you could. Because if you can't do that, the gun is a huge, huge step beyond that. And
Right.
start with the basics. Start with that.
In our time remaining, I would like you to educate our audience about your training. I know that geographically that's not going to work for everyone, but I would like you to share with our audience about your classes. I know you have people come from all over to attend them. So, talk about your classes where you teach people how to do this.
So we have program of about 40 hours worth of coursework, but they're broken up into half day courses. I realized a long time ago that the number of people that have 40 hours or even have 16 hours to come for a 2 day weekend class is much smaller than the amount of people that will come to a 3 or 4 hour course. And I broke my program up into smaller pieces, more digestible, more financially affordable. We have a private range. We are 1 hour east of Austin, out toward Giddings, Texas. As I joke, we are an hour from Austin. We're an hour from College Station. We're 2 hours from Waco, San Antonio, and Houston, which makes us central to all and convenient to none, right? But in order to have an outdoor range, you have to own land, and land prices near the urban areas are incredibly expensive. And 24 years ago, we purchased property where we purchased it, right? And we've built a nice little permanent training facility with a shoot house, an indoor classroom with a real bathroom, indoor plumbing, no porta potties. A lot of people that go to outdoor ranges are like, "Oh, this is nasty," and I got to, use some nasty porta potty or worse, use a tree. Um, we made our place comfortable with good air conditioning and comfortable environment. And I run usually 2 to 4 classes every weekend. So if you want to come for a 2 day event, you can take multiple classes. If you want to come for a full day, you can come for a full day. We almost always have 2 classes back to back, half day classes back to back. And I do host big name national trainers. If those that are really motivated that want more can come for that. And we will meet you wherever your level is. We're doing a class next weekend. I've got 20 people coming who've never fired a gun before. We're going to have 5 instructors teaching 20 people. Everybody's going to get hands-on instruction. We're going to, teach people the absolute basics. We teach the carry permit class. Then we teach all the stuff that you really need to know, which is how to draw from a holster and how to clear your house, how to do movement indoors. It's not like it is on TV. We don't just run around pointing our gun at everybody like they do on the TV shows. Most of the tactics they show on TV are not appropriate or relevant for armed citizens. A lot of the tactics that law enforcement and military use, not appropriate or relevant for armed citizens. That we offer a 3 hour class on personal tactics, which is the what would I do if situations. We do low light shooting because many events happen in low light. So we've got all kinds of courses. We do require, you need a certain amount of fundamentals. You can't show up for low light shooting if you've never shot a gun before. You have to have basic, you have to have the carry permit course, and then some additional training in how to use a holster before you can get into the really good stuff. And that's just unfortunately with the safety involved and to make sure that everybody's at the same skill level, then we can teach more interesting things. But everybody needs to do the basics. And generally that means at least a basic course and the carry permit class, and preferably at least one short course where they learn how to use a holster properly. It's not as simple as just put it on and whip the gun out. You think it's simple, but it's really not. And there's lots of ways. The most dangerous thing that you can do with a firearm, and you can look this up on Google and find it, endless examples of this. Drawing the gun from the holster, putting the gun back in the holster, number one cause of self-inflicted gunshot wounds comes from untrained people trying to use holsters and not knowing what they're doing.
That makes total sense. Karl, why don't you go ahead and tell us what your website is so they can find you?
krtraining.com. If you like articles and information, if you go to my blog, which is blog, B-L-O-G, at krtraining.com, hundreds and hundreds of articles there on all kinds of topics. Also, you can either buy the book from us or you can go on Amazon and get it. And that is the Strategies and Standards for Defensive Handgun Training. And this is an excellent book. You can get signed copies direct from us, and that gets you a lot of information. It tells you what skills you should train and what you should train to, the level of proficiency, that sort of thing. I am working on a follow-up book, but probably don't look for that to be out before December at the rate I'm going. But yeah, we do in-person training. Here's another thing I'll recommend for your ladies. There is a wonderful national organization called A Girl and A Gun. And particularly in Texas, there are chapters all over the place. And the A Girl and A Gun organization has monthly meetings. You can show up without knowing anything. They have instructors. They'll help you with equipment. It seems to be very popular that ladies want to learn from other ladies, and they particularly want to learn from other ladies that can shoot well, who also carry, who can answer, how do I make all this work for me? And so that's it's the closest thing we have to, it's like a franchise, nationwide program that's good, other than the people teaching the carry permit courses. Of course, there's 4,000 of us around the state that teach the carry permit classes, and there's probably one not far from you, and they're not all as good as they could be or should be, but they did meet state standards, and training from anyone is better than training from no one for the most part. So I would say, all of those things are important. If you've never had a Stop the Bleed class, look on the internet, find a Stop the Bleed class. That is how to use a tourniquet and how to stop serious bleeding, which matters even if you're never going to be in a gunfight. You might be in a car accident, you might have a kitchen accident, power tool accident. You just never know. And that's another life skill that everybody should have, is a Stop the Bleed training and a tourniquet, which costs, $30. And again, have it in your car, in your purse, in your pack, in your briefcase. Have it somewhere, because in the event that you need it, you won't have a lot of time before you run out of blood, and then you won't be able to do anything about it. So it's another one of those things that if you need it, you need it right now, and you need it to work, and you need to get it on. So, some basic life skills: flashlight, pepper spray, tourniquet, and then for those that are ready for the big step, have the handgun.
Karl, this has been awesome, very informative, and exactly what I wanted to present to our audience. I thank you. You've done a fabulous job.
Great. If people have questions, they can email me at Rehn, R-E-H-N, at krtraining.com. Send me all your questions. Happy to answer all your questions and point you to trainers. If we're not close enough to you, I know a lot of trainers all over Texas. I can make recommendations, and certainly happy to help you out.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. And I have a feeling we're going to ask you to come back, and we will do a little bit more of a deep dive next time. Would you be open to that?
Sounds great. Happy to do it anytime.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been awesome. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the Awake to Truth podcast. Visit our website at awaketotruth.org and connect with Mary Starr on X at awaketotruth_ and on Rumble at Awake to Truth Ministries. The Awake to Truth podcast, a beacon of hope in a world shrouded by shadows.